Hi everyone! I'd like to welcome all of our new members to our free kids cooking classes, and thanks so much for joining me. So I do this up top view so that it's easy to see what I'm doing on the actual counter for the kids, so hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so today we are going to be making Funfetti breakfast muffins, all right? So we're gonna be baking from scratch. It's a very simple recipe, so just follow along and you're gonna do great. All right, so I have lots of ingredients and I have lots of equipment out. So if you need to take a second and look at the recipe and get your ingredients and your equipment, go ahead and do that. Make sure you wash your hands and then preheat your oven, okay? Preheat your oven to 400 degrees, all right? So that's where you'll be at. Okay, so when we bake, we always do our dry ingredients and then our wet ingredients separate, and then we combine them. Okay, so usually you'll have your bowl of dry ingredients, which is the first thing we're gonna do, and then we'll have some ingredients that you cream together. That will usually include butter, or maybe some shortening, and your sugars, all right? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cream some of our ingredients together, we're gonna put our dry ingredients together, then we're gonna mix it all together to make a muffin. All right, so first, just get kind of a medium-sized bowl, and we're gonna mix together our flour, baking powder, I believe, baking powder. Okay, you have baking powder and baking soda, all right? Those are two different ingredients, so make sure to follow the recipe and get the one the recipe says. In this case, our recipe calls for baking powder, all right? So our flour, our baking powder, and our salt. So we need 2 cups flour. Okay, so this is my flour, it's awfully big. Okay, I'm gonna bring it, this is my mixer, also big. All right, so I have my flour. Get your measuring cup. We're going to do 2 cups. And we've done this before, but just a reminder, when you're measuring your dry ingredients, especially when you are baking, you need to make sure that you do exact measurements, right? So if I put this cup in like this, is that 1 cup? Can you see? It's not 1 cup, right? Totally not level. So I take my knife, I kind of pat it down, and I smooth it across the top till I get a level 1 cup flour measurement. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, do that twice. All right, so we'll do that again. Make a nice even measurement. Add kind of a lot, so I'm doing it a couple of times. Oops, I messed up. I'm adding a little bit in, want to make sure it's a nice measurement. All right, so there we go. So 2 cups of flour, put that in. Okay, now we don't need the flour anymore, and since mine's really big, I'm gonna move it to the side. So you can do the same, right? When you're done with an ingredient, if it's in your way, you can always just get rid of it. Okay, flour done. Next we need 3 teaspoons of baking powder, all right? So I'm gonna grab 3 teaspoons. Now I'm gonna share a little tip with you, okay? 3 teaspoons is actually equal to 1 tablespoon, okay? So if you have a tablespoon, you could just use a tablespoon. I'm gonna do the 3 teaspoons, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing I did with the knife, but on the edge of my baking powder pan, right? To make it nice and even. Okay, so I'm gonna do that 3 times. Get 3 teaspoons of baking powder, okay? Now we're done with this. I'll put this to the side. And then the last ingredient is salt. So I have mine in a little salt container, but whatever salt you have, and we need 1/2 teaspoon. So I have a separate measurement for 1/2 teaspoon. I'm not gonna take the teaspoon measurement and just guess, right? We need exact measurements, okay? So we're done with the salt. And now this is our dry ingredient mix, like I was saying. So I'm just gonna mix it together. Okay, all mixed, good to go. I'm gonna put it to the side, we'll use it again in a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna do, I was talking about at the beginning how we're gonna cream some ingredients together. We're gonna do our creaming right now. So I have what's called a Bosch kitchen mixer. It's like a KitchenAid, it's just a different style. I just happen to love it. If you don't have a mixer, you can just use a hand mixer, like an electric beater. I've used them before in these classes as well. Just use whatever you have, and we're gonna cream our ingredients. So we're gonna do our butter and our sugar. So our butter is 1/4 cup, and it does need to be softened. So if you left your butter out and it's at room temperature, you're good to go. Perfect, all right? But mine has not been. Mine just came out of the refrigerator. So a fourth of a cup is half a stick, right? It's 4 tablespoons, and on the outside of a thing of butter, it lists how many tablespoons there are in the stick. So I'm just gonna cut 4 tablespoons to get my fourth of a cup. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just cut it nice and in half. This one I'm not gonna need, so we'll put it to the side. And then this is the one I'm gonna use, so I'll unwrap it. And then we have softened and melted butter before, right? And we cut it into little slips to make it easier to soften. All right, so I'm gonna do that, okay? So I'm just gonna cut it. Now we're just softening. We're not melting it completely, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And honestly, you probably could have just put the whole cube in there and just softened it a little bit, but this just makes it that much easier. So again, whenever we do butter in the microwave, we always need to make sure it's covered so that it doesn't splatter everywhere. Butter can make a huge mess in your microwave. Okay, so I just put the butter in for 20 seconds. We're just gonna soften it. All right, now we need to put our sugar in here. So this is my sugar, also really big. Okay, and we need, how much sugar? We need 1/2 cup sugar, okay? So 1/2 cup. Now same thing, we're gonna do really even measurements. So I'm gonna take my knife, here's my knife, and I'm gonna glide it over the top to make an even sugar measurement, and I'll put that in my mixer. And again, my sugar's really big, so we're gonna get it out of the way. Okay, so our butter's ready. Okay, so you can see it's not melted, right? It's just softened. That's what we want, all right? So I'm just gonna take my spatula and put all the butter in the bowl. Okay, so there we go. Now this is gonna be really loud, so I'm not gonna be able to really talk while it's creaming, but I'm just gonna turn my mixer on to like its low setting and let it cream for a little while. And when it's nice and fluffy is when we'll be ready to go. Okay, so if you can hear me, we need 1 cup of milk. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm measuring my milk while it's creaming. Okay, so 1 cup of milk. Okay, so it's all mixed together. You can kind of see it probably. Mine's still a little bit lumpy, so I might run it a little bit longer. All right, here it is. There's not very much in there, right? We just put 1/2 cup sugar and 1/4 cup of butter, so there's not very much. So we are now gonna add our milk and our dry ingredients alternating. Okay, so I'm gonna add some milk first. Right, that's why I got the milk ready. So I'm just putting in, I don't know, I put in probably 1/3 of the milk that I had. And then I'm gonna turn it back on to cream for another couple minutes, or that's a long time, for just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me, right? This is my muffin tin, and I'm gonna prepare the muffin tin while it's creaming. Now I do have silicone, so if you have silicone and you don't wanna spray it with cooking spray, you don't have to. I'm still gonna spray mine with cooking spray. So if you have a regular muffin tin, go ahead and spray it with cooking spray too. Okay, so if you couldn't hear, I just sprayed my cookie tin or my muffin tin with cooking spray, and you probably saw I went this way and then I went this way, right? That seems like a lot of cooking spray, but I do that because in a muffin tin, I like to get this side of the muffin tin's holes, and then I like to get this side of the muffin tin holes, right? Both sides to make it easy to get the muffin out. Okay, so now we're alternating, right? We're alternating our dry ingredients and our milk. So I'm just gonna scoop in some of our dry ingredients, and then we'll turn it back on. And we probably won't have to mix it quite as long now. We'll just be able to incorporate everything and then be good to go. Okay, so it's already looking really good. Now, hopefully you can see inside my bowl, and I'm just scraping down the edges on the outside and the inside because I want to make sure all of the flour and all of the ingredients get inside the mix, right? And then I'm going to mix really quick. Okay, now we'll do some milk. Okay, I'm going to turn it on again, just incorporating, alternating back and forth between the two. Okay, we'll do dry ingredients. I'm actually just going to put the rest of what I have for the dry ingredients. I'm going to put it all in. Mix it one more time, and then we'll do the last of the milk. Okay, while this is mixing, I'm going to measure my Fruity Pebbles, right? My Funfetti. So we need 1 cup Fruity Pebbles. Last one, put in the rest of the milk. Now you can see I have a wet 1 cup, right? And I don't want to put a wet 1 cup in with my Fruity Pebbles. So, question to you kids, what would you do to get 1 cup of Fruity Pebbles, right? If your 1 cup is dirty. Okay, I think you'll probably all know the answer. So the answer is, I'm going to use my 1/2 cup, and I'm going to do it twice, right? To get 1 cup. Okay, all of our mix is incorporated, right? We have our dry ingredients, we have our wet and our creamed ingredients. They're all in there. So I'm going to take my spatula, and I'm going to, well, actually first, so this is what I'm doing because I have a Bosch, right? I'm going to just take the mixer out, and you might want to do the same thing if you're using a KitchenAid, because we're not going to use the mixer part anymore. So if it's in your way, you can go ahead and get rid of it. And I'm just going to get whatever I can of the batter off of the beaters. Okay, so now I'm going to mix in, just off the sides here, everything that I can. So the last ingredient says I'm supposed to fold it, or instruction says that I'm supposed to fold in 1 cup of Fruity Pebbles. What do you think fold means? That's a weird term to use while you're baking. I'm not going to fold it like a piece of paper, okay? So fold just means to gently mix in, right? So that's why we are not going to use the beaters. We are going to use the spatula instead. Okay, so Fruity Pebbles. Remember, I'm going to do 2 1/2 cup measurements to get my 1 cup of Fruity Pebbles. Okay, so there we go. 1 1/2 cup, 2, okay, 1 cup Fruity Pebbles, and then I'm going to use my spatula to mix it. I'm just going to take the bowl off because it'll be easier to mix. So if we used the beaters to mix in the Fruity Pebbles, does anyone have any idea what would happen? So if we use the beaters, the Fruity Pebbles would just disintegrate, right? You would probably end up with kind of like a colored muffin batter looking mix, right? Instead of a Funfetti mix, which is sprinkles usually in cupcakes, but here it's Fruity Pebbles, kind of showing the color in the actual muffins, okay? So I'm done folding. This is what my batter looks like, right? You can see the Fruity Pebbles inside there. So now I'm just going to take the batter and I'm going to put it into my muffin tin. Okay, this is the last step. You guys have done great. We're getting close, okay? So I have a big spoon here. So I'm going to take my spoon. Then I have a smaller spoon. They could be the same size, whatever. Right? And I'm going to take this spoon and I'm going to scoop it in to my muffin mix. All right? That's how we're going to do it. Okay? So go ahead and do that. Take a big scoop, little scoop, put it right in there. Big scoop, little scoop. And again, we've done muffin shaped things before. If you don't fill every muffin tin, that's okay. Right? If you make 10 instead of 12, that's okay. Every muffin tin container, they're a little bit of a different size. Mine's actually kind of big, which I like, but that does mean that some recipes I don't fill all 12, and that's okay. Okay, so we'll see how far we get. You do want to make sure they are even though, okay? So I have a tiny little muffin right here, right? I had some extra left over from this one and I put it in this one, right? You probably saw me do that. So I'm gonna need to go back and put extra in that muffin tin so that I can hopefully fill it up to be even. If they're not even, then they're not gonna bake evenly. And some of them will likely be underbaked and some will be burned, right? So that is about all I have, right? So I only made 10 muffins. Totally fine, okay? So now I'm gonna put my muffins in the oven for 10 to 14 minutes. So I'm gonna do 12 minutes, okay? And then we'll take them out. I'm not gonna be live with you when we take them out because we don't wanna all sit here for 15 minutes, right? So when you take them out, my recommendation is to take a toothpick and poke it in the center of the muffin. And if it comes out clean, there's no sticky residue left on it, then your muffins are done and you can let them cool. And when they're cool, you can take them out of the muffin tins. All right, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you love your muffins. Have a good one.